Some people break your heart without saying one bad word. That is what happened to me. I thought I found someone special. But in the end, I was just someone he used when he felt lonely. My name is Ellie. I used to believe I was not good enough for love. I lived in Dayton, Ohio. My life was quiet. I worked in a small pet food warehouse, putting cans in boxes. It was simple work. Every day was the same. I woke up, went to work, came home, and ate alone. I had no boyfriend. I had no family nearby. I only had one friend, Mia, who worked with me. We shared lunch sometimes. She was loud and funny. I was quiet. Then one Monday morning, I met Ethan. He came into the warehouse to fix one of the machines. He wore a blue shirt and had kind eyes. He asked me, "Where is the manager?" I pointed and said nothing else. But when he walked away, I looked at him again. I felt something strange in my chest. I didn't know why. The next day he came back. He smiled and said, "Hi again." I smiled too, but I didn't speak much. He asked for my name. I said, "Ellie." He said, "That's a sweet name." I thought about his words all day. After that, he came often. He always tried to talk to me. Sometimes he made jokes. Sometimes he just said I looked nice. I was shy. I didn't say much. But inside, I was excited. No man ever talked to me like that. I was never the pretty one. I didn't wear makeup. I didn't have long hair. But Ethan looked at me like I mattered. One Friday, he asked if I wanted to have coffee with him after work. My hands felt cold. I didn't know what to say, but I said yes. That evening, we sat in a small shop near the bus stop. He asked about my life. I told him I lived alone. I told him I had no brothers, no sisters. My parents lived far away. I said, "I don't go out much." He said, "That's okay. I like quiet people." I felt happy. After that day, we met more, sometimes on weekends, sometimes after work. He said he liked spending time with me. I started to feel close to him. He never called me his girlfriend, but he sent messages every day. He told me I was sweet. He said I made him feel calm. I believed him. One night we went for a walk after dinner. He held my hand. I didn't ask what we were. I didn't want to scare him. I thought maybe if I wait, he will say he loves me. Weeks passed. He came over sometimes. He ate dinner at my place. He held me close and made me feel safe. I told Mia about him. She said, "Be careful." But I didn't listen. I thought, she doesn't understand him like I do. Then one day, things started to change. He stopped calling every day. He said he was busy. I asked, "Are you okay?" He said, "Yes, just tired." But something felt different. Sometimes I waited hours for one reply. Sometimes he didn't show up when we planned to meet. I sat alone at the cafe looking at the door. My heart hurt, but I told myself, maybe he is busy. One night I asked him, "Do you still like me?" He said, "Why do you ask so many questions?" I said, "I just want to know how you feel." He looked at me and said, "You're overthinking again. Just relax." I went home that night and cried. But the next morning, he sent a small message. "Sorry if I was rude. I was tired." I smiled and said, "It's okay," because I didn't want to lose him. One weekend, I called him 3 times. He didn't answer. I sent one message. "Is everything okay?" No reply. On Monday, he walked into the warehouse like nothing happened. I waited for him to come talk to me. He didn't. I went to him during lunch. I said, "Why didn't you call back?" He looked at me and said, "We're not married, Ellie. You don't need to check on me." My face turned red. I felt small. I walked away. My legs felt weak. I wanted to scream, but I didn't. I just worked the rest of the day in silence. That night, I sat in my small kitchen. I looked at my phone again and again. No message came. I thought about all the things I did for him. I made food. I gave him time. I waited. I listened. But he gave so little. Just words. No promises. No love. Mia called me that night. I told her everything. She said, "Ellie, he never gave you anything real. You only gave. And he only took." I was quiet. Then I whispered, "I think you're right." But my heart still wanted him. The next time I saw him, I said, "Ethan, I don't think I can do this anymore." He raised his eyebrows. "Do what?" "This, us," I said. He laughed. "What do you mean, us? We were just having fun." His words hit me like ice. I said, "I loved you." He looked at me like I was stupid. "You made that up, Ellie. I never said anything like that." I walked away. I didn't cry in front of him. That night, I sat on my bed. My chest felt heavy. I looked in the mirror and saw a woman who gave too much to someone who never cared. I felt pain, but I also felt something new. I felt done. I didn't want to wait anymore. I didn't want to beg. He used me. He never chose me. But now I would choose myself. Before I share the rest of my story, I need to know, where are you listening from? Knowing someone hears me, understands me, gives me strength. The next morning, I woke up early. The room was cold and quiet. I sat on the edge of the bed and looked at the floor. I felt tired, not from sleep, but from pain. My heart still hurt, but I did not cry. Not this time. I made tea and sat by the window. It was raining outside. The sky was gray. I watched the cars pass on the street. I thought about all the times I waited for his message, all the times I stayed up late just to hear his voice. I felt sad, but I also felt angry. I opened my phone and looked at his messages. So many short words, so many sorry texts, but never real care, never real love. I deleted them all. I deleted his number too. My hands were shaking, but I did it. I needed to stop. At work, I saw him again. He was talking to someone and laughing. He did not look at me. I walked past him without a word. My heart beat fast, but I kept walking. I went to the back room and stayed there for some time. Mia came to me and said, "You okay?" I said, "I'm trying." She smiled. "That's a good start." That evening, I did not check my phone once. I made soup and watched a movie alone. It was quiet, but peaceful. I started to think about myself. What do I like? What makes me happy? I did not know the answers yet, but I wanted to find out. On Saturday, Mia asked me to go shopping with her. I said yes. We walked around the mall, looked at shoes, and ate ice cream. I told her I felt strange. Not happy, not sad, just empty. She said, "That's normal. You gave your heart. Now your heart needs time." I looked around at all the people in the mall. Some were laughing. Some were alone like me. I didn't feel so small anymore. I was just one person in a big world. That night, I wrote a list. Not a list of dreams, just a list of small things. Wake up early, go for a walk, call Mom, clean my room, learn something new. It was not a big list, but it helped me. The next day, I woke up and did the first two things. I walked around the block and looked at the trees. I breathed in the cold air. It felt fresh. It felt new. At work, I stayed busy. I didn't look at him anymore. I just did my job. He didn't talk to me. He didn't say sorry again. Maybe he didn't care. But I was starting to care about myself. A week passed, then 2. Each day felt a little easier. One day, a man came to the warehouse. He was new. His name was Aaron. He was not like Ethan. He didn't try to be charming. He was quiet, kind, and respectful. He said thank you when I helped him. He didn't look at me too long. He didn't say sweet things, but I felt safe around him. We worked near each other a few times. He asked about my work. I told him it was simple but okay. He said, "You do it well." That was it. Just a kind word. I didn't feel butterflies. I didn't wait for his texts. It was not love. It was just peace. Mia noticed. She said, "He seems nice." I said, "Yes, he is." But I was not ready. I didn't want to fall again. I didn't want to be hurt again. So I smiled at him, but I stayed quiet. One day after work, I stayed late to clean up. Aaron was still there. He said, "You always stay late?" I said, "Sometimes." He said, "You work hard." I looked at him and smiled. "I try." Then he said, "Some people don't see quiet women, but I do." My heart felt soft, but I didn't speak. I just looked at him and nodded once. It was a small moment, but it stayed in my mind. At home, I thought about his words. I remembered all the times I felt invisible, all the times I wanted someone to choose me. And now, someone saw me. Not in a loud way, not with sweet lies, just simple truth. But I told myself, this time, take it slow. The next weekend, I cleaned my home. I played music. I danced a little while I swept the floor. I laughed at myself in the mirror. I looked silly, but I felt alive. I called my mom and talked for an hour. I told her about work. I told her about Mia. I told her I was trying to feel strong again. She said, "You're stronger than you think." One night, I looked at the bed beside me. It was still empty, but I didn't feel sad. I felt calm. I did not need someone beside me to feel whole. I was learning to be enough for myself. Aaron still spoke to me sometimes, but he never pushed. He was just kind. That was enough. Then one afternoon, Ethan came to me. He said, "Can we talk?" I looked at him and said, "Why?" He said, "I made a mistake." I said nothing. He looked down and said, "You were good to me. I was not good to you." I said, "I know." He looked up, surprised. I said, "But I'm not the same anymore. I don't wait for people who don't want me." He opened his mouth, but I stopped him. I said, "You used me. You said it was fun. But now I don't want fun. I want peace. He didn't speak. He just nodded and walked away. I turned and went back to work. I didn't cry. I didn't feel broken. I felt free. After that day, I felt something change inside me. It was not fast. It was slow, like the sun coming up after a long night. I still remembered everything, but the pain did not control me anymore. I was not the same Ellie. I was quiet, yes, but not weak. At work, I smiled more. I helped people without feeling tired. I ate lunch with Mia and laughed at her jokes. I still saw Ethan sometimes, but I no longer looked at him. I no longer waited for him. He was just a person, nothing more. Aaron started sitting with me during lunch. He did not talk too much. He asked simple things. How was your day? Or, did you sleep well? I liked that. He never made me feel small. I felt safe around him. That was new for me. One day, he asked if I wanted to go for a walk after work. I said yes. It was sunny outside. The wind was soft. We walked near the park, not saying much. I liked the quiet. After some time, he said, "You're easy to be with." I smiled. "Thank you." He looked at me and said, "You were hurt before. I can see that." I said, "Yes, but I'm learning to be okay again." He nodded. "That's good. Don't let people break you." I didn't answer, but in my heart, I knew I was already healing. We didn't talk about love. We didn't hold hands, but his words stayed with me. I started to believe that maybe one day I could love again, without fear, without pain. The next weekend, I cleaned my small kitchen. I made tea and opened the window. I watched birds fly by. I felt calm. I felt proud. I had walked through the fire, and I was still standing. I took out an old photo from a drawer. It was a picture of me from 2 years ago. My face looked tired. My eyes looked sad. I touched the photo and whispered, "You made it." Then I put it away and smiled. Mia and I planned a weekend trip to the lake. She said, "You need fun, Ellie. Real fun." We went together by bus. We ate snacks, listened to music, and watched the trees pass. At the lake, we walked barefoot on the sand. We laughed and took pictures. That night we sat by the water and talked. She looked at me and said, "You are not the same person from before." I said, "I know." She said, "I like this version of you." I looked at the water and said, "Me too." After that trip, I felt even stronger. I started doing more things for myself. I cooked better food. I watched new movies. I even joined a small reading group at the local library. I met kind people there. They asked about me. They listened. I felt seen. One day, Aaron came to me after work. He said, "You look happy these days." I said, "I feel better. I feel free." He smiled and said, "I'm glad." Then he asked, "Would you like to have dinner with me?" "Just dinner. Nothing more." I looked at him. He was not like Ethan. He didn't play games. He didn't rush. He just stood there, waiting for my answer. I said, "Yes, I'd like that." We went to a small place near the bus stop. It was not fancy, but it was nice. We ate slowly and talked about simple things: work, music, weather. He asked about my past, but not too much. I told him a little. He listened without judgment. When he walked me home, he didn't try to touch me. He said, "Take care, Ellie." That was all. But those words meant a lot. I started to see him more, but we took it slow. No big words, no promises. Just time, kindness, and small steps. One evening, we sat on a bench in the park. The sun was going down. The sky was pink and orange. I said, "Thank you for being patient." He looked at me and said, "You're worth the wait." My heart did not race like before. It felt calm, safe. I didn't feel scared. I didn't feel small. A few days later, I saw Ethan again. He was talking to someone in the parking lot. He saw me too. For a second, our eyes met, but I looked away. I did not feel pain. I did not feel hate. I felt nothing. I walked past him like he was part of an old book I did not want to read again. At home that night, I thought about my journey. I thought about the girl who waited for messages, the girl who cried into her pillow, the girl who asked, "Am I not enough?" Now, I knew the answer. I was always enough. I just gave my heart to the wrong person. I stood by the window and smiled at the stars. My life was not perfect, but it was mine. I had peace in my heart. I had hope in my eyes. And for the first time in a long time, I felt free. Maybe Aaron and I would become something more. Maybe not. But that was not the point. The point was, I had found myself again, and I would never give myself away for nothing again. Not ever.